Chicago is a city of noise. Honking taxis, the rumble of the L train, voices blending into a constant, restless hum. But on Ashland Avenue, just a few blocks from where the modern skyline pierces the sky, there stands a house that seems immune to the city's pulse. Its bricks are weathered, its paint stripped by decades of harsh winters, and its windows reflect nothing but darkness, no matter the hour. Locals whisper about it. Some cross the street rather than walk past. Realtors have tried to sell it countless times, each owner leaving within months, abandoning furniture, clothes, even personal journals, as if they couldn't bear to carry a single reminder of what happened inside. Chicago has its share of ghost stories, but this one is older, heavier, as though the house itself remembers every life that passed through its doors. It was into this house that Emily Sanders moved one bitter January evening. She was 32, single, and determined to start fresh after a failed engagement in New York. Chicago had always fascinated her, the history, the grit, the sense that every building held a secret. When she found the listing for the Ashland house, it felt like fate. The rent was impossibly cheap, and though the realtor avoided her eyes when she signed the paperwork, Emily chalked it up to typical sales awkwardness. The first week was uneventful. She unpacked boxes, arranged bookshelves, and painted over the cracked wallpaper in the living room. The house groaned at night, the way old houses do, but Emily had lived in worse. She told herself she was being dramatic every time she thought she heard footsteps in the hallway when she was alone. But by the second week, small things began to happen. Started with her cat, Milo. He was a skittish gray tabby who usually preferred windowsills and quiet corners. But in this house, he avoided the second floor entirely. Whenever Emily carried him up the creaking staircase, he clawed her arms and bolted back down before she reached the landing. He hissed at the door to the master bedroom, his back arched, his fur bristling as though something unseen stood on the other side. Then came the lights. The bulbs in the kitchen flickered every evening at exactly 9:13 p.m. Emily replaced them twice, but the flickering continued. One night, as she stood on a chair to change the bulb again, she swore she felt a cold breath against her ear and a whisper too soft to decipher. Still, she refused to be frightened. "Old wiring," she muttered, though her hands trembled. By the third week, the house stopped pretending. Emily woke one night to the sound of music, soft piano notes drifting through the air. She thought a neighbor must be playing until she realized the melody was coming from inside her house. She crept down the stairs, heart hammering, and found the living room empty. Dust covered the piano in the corner, a relic left by the previous owner. Its keys had yellowed with age, but as she watched, one key to press, on its own, then another. The same haunting tune filled the silence. Emily fled upstairs and locked her bedroom door, pressing her back against it until dawn. The next morning, she went to the library. She told herself it was just curiosity, not fear, that made her dig through old newspaper archives. But what she found rooted her to the chair, her coffee cooling beside her. The house on Ashland had belonged to the Whitford family in the 1920s. The father, Charles, was a banker. The mother, Lillian, hosted lavish parties in the very living room Emily now avoided. They had 2 children, Henry, age 9, and Margaret, age 7. In 1927, neighbors reported screams one winter night. Police arrived to find the family dead. Charles in his study with a bullet wound to the head, Lillian and the children in their beds, poisoned. The official ruling was murder-suicide, Charles overcome by financial ruin after the market crash. But the newspapers hinted at something darker. Guests had often complained of feeling ill during parties, of shadows moving in hallways where no one stood, of mirrors that reflected figures not in the room. Emily shut the archives, her skin crawling. That night, the piano played again. She tried to ignore it, stuffing earplugs into her ears, but dreams slipped into her sleep, dreams of a man standing at the foot of her bed, his face blurred, his hands dripping black liquid that smelled of iron. She woke to find her sheets damp, not with sweat, but with water cold and metallic smelling, staining the mattress. Days blurred into each other. The house seemed to breathe, its walls pulsing with whispers. Doors slammed without wind, shadows lengthened unnaturally. Emily caught glimpses of children in the mirrors, 2 small figures staring at her with hollow eyes. Milo disappeared one evening. She found him the next morning in the attic, crouched in a corner, trembling violently, his pupils blown wide. He never purred again. Desperate, Emily invited her friend Sarah to stay the weekend. She hoped another presence would prove her imagination had run away with her. But Sarah didn't last the night. At 3 a.m., Emily woke to Sarah screaming. She found her friend in the hallway, nails digging into the wallpaper, eyes wide with terror. "The children," Sarah gasped. "They're in my room. They won't stop staring." Then she collapsed unconscious. Emily dragged her out of the house at dawn. Sarah refused to go back inside. She drove away without a word, her face pale as a corpse. Emily never heard from her again. Alone once more, Emily began to change. She stopped answering calls, stopped leaving the house. Dark circles bruised her eyes, and her reflection in the mirror seemed wrong. Sometimes it smiled when she didn't. Sometimes it whispered in a child's voice, "Stay with us." One night, unable to bear the isolation, she ventured into the master bedroom, the room Milo refused to enter. Dust coated the furniture, but the air felt charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. On the dresser lay an old diary, its leather cracked with age. She opened it with trembling hands. The entries belonged to Lillian Whitford. At first, they detailed parties and dresses, gossip about neighbors. But as the pages went on, the handwriting grew frantic. She wrote of nightmares, of waking to find her children standing over her, their mouths sewn shut, their eyes leaking black tears. She wrote of Charles speaking to someone in the study at night, though no one was there. Of a voice that promised him fortune if he would give the house what it wanted. The final entry was a single line, scrawled so violently the pen tore the page. "The house is hungry." That night, Emily understood what it meant. She woke to find herself standing in the kitchen, a knife in her hand, her feet bare on the cold tile. She didn't remember getting there. Behind her, the piano played its haunting melody, though no one sat at the keys. The air shimmered, and for a moment, she saw them, the Whitfords. Charles with his hollow eyes, Lillian with her twisted smile, the children clutching hands. They stood in the doorway, watching. Emily dropped the knife and ran, but every hallway stretched longer than it should have. Every door led back to the same room. The house folded in on itself, trapping her in an endless maze. Whispers rose from the walls, overlapping, chanting, "Stay, stay, stay." When neighbors reported not seeing Emily for weeks, police entered the house. They found it empty. No furniture, no belongings, not even dust. Just a piano in the corner, gleaming as if newly polished. Sometimes, at night, passers-by swear they hear music drifting from the windows. Others claim they see a woman in the upstairs bedroom, staring out with lifeless eyes. The house on Ashland Avenue still stands. Its rent remains impossibly cheap. But those who dare enter never stay long. The city hums around it, alive and bustling. But within those walls, time is frozen, hunger never ends, and the dead are never truly gone. And somewhere, if you listen closely, you can hear Emily's voice join the whispers, begging the next tenant not to move in.